Okay, Zahra, we will start now, yeah. Zahra, it's 12:32, yeah. I will open the webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, today we are very happy. We are very pleased, yeah, to have Dr. Zahra Shahsafar, yeah, from Shiraz, Iran, to present her research, yeah, on critical thinking, yeah, in field dependent and field independent students critical thinking blocking. And this one is quite interesting, yeah, for all of us, and we will invite Dr. Zahra Shahsafar to present the paper.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have my screen?
Not yet. You can share screen, yeah, now.
What about now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so just a moment. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Shahsafar. I am an assistant professor at Shiraz University of Medical Sciences. In this presentation, I want to talk about investigating the extent of critical thinking in field-dependent and field-independent students blogging. So first of all, we want to cover actually these points. First of all, I want to talk about the introduction of this part. Okay, then we are going to talk about the problem statement, the purpose of the study, method, result, discussion, and conclusion. So, in the introduction, I want to talk about the importance of writing in education. As you know, writing has become recognized as an essential skill for students. Students need to improve their writing skill throughout their academic careers in order to pass proficiency tests, answer exam questions, working on their thesis, and writing academic papers. So these are just a few of the benefits of writing in education and the need of the students for writing. So we may have different things as well. Another one is using critical thinking in writing, which is very, very important nowadays in students' writing. You know, critical thinking is essential nowadays for students, not only for students, but also for any individuals in the world. Even if when you have a problem, in order to solve your problem, you need a critical thinking. So one of the most important places that we can use critical thinking is in writing. Maybe this question comes to you. Okay, if it is important, so how? How can we add critical thinking in students' writing? We have different ideas. Some people believe that we can use critical thinking in face-to-face classes, but one of the problems is limited contact time, which is existed in the face-to-face learning environment. In a word, it could be argued that in a face-to-face classes, instructors are not able to provide sufficient time to conduct various critical thinking strategies that students need to analyze their problems, compare their treatment, give logical reasons, and predict results critically. So, in this area, we are thinking of something else. And as you know, online learning classes have some problems as well. Nowadays, because of the COVID-19, most of us are teaching online. But are you quite satisfied with online classes? Yes or no? What do you think? To some extent, yeah, agree. Because actually, what are the problems that you have in your online classes? Can you just mention them very quickly? Thank you. The problems that you have in your online classes. For example, number one, I am waiting for your answer. Maybe, yes. One of them is the internet problem. Yes, sometimes we have internet problem. What else do we have? Students are not active. Very good. This is another problem. So, studies show that one of the best important place or environment for learning is a blended learning environment. In that area, we can have the advantages of both actually learning face-to-face and online. In a short, I can say that in a blended learning environment, we can combine the power of both environment. We can create extensive application of Web 2.0 tools that I will discuss later. We can make better use of class time, deliver information, create collaborative learning environment, enhance students' engagement, communication, interactions, efficiencies, and learning. So, in order to enhance the students' critical thinking through writing, I use blog, and I will let you know what are the advantages of the blog over other Web 2 tools. Blogging has some important characteristics for us that I'm going to explain later. And then in order to teach well in actually learning environment, research shows that it is very important to consider a student's cognitive style. What do we mean by cognitive style? Cognitive style is paying attention to learners to acquire and process information and respond to learning. So, does any of you have any experience, or have you ever worked on a student's cognitive style? Do you know what cognitive style is? What is cognitive style? What do you mean by that exactly? It deals with our understanding. What else? What does it show? So, cognitive style can show different characteristics of the people. For example, we can see whether the person is field dependent or field independent. I mean, field dependency is very important in this area. What do we mean by field dependency? It refers to the way each individual perceives and memorizes information. I will discuss later how do we define field dependent and field independent students. Okay, so based on what I mentioned, the statement of the problem is that despite the importance of identifying learners' characteristics in a learning environment, literature continues to suffer from a lack of research about how field-dependent and field-independent students can apply critical thinking in their online learning environment, particularly in blogging. So, the research question and the purpose of the study are as follows. In this study, we're going to see the extent of critical thinking in field-dependent and field-independent students blogging. And we want to see that the research question is that, is there a significant difference in the extent of critical thinking in field-dependent and field-independent students blogging after they were trained critical thinking skills? Okay. The literature review goes through first critical thinking definition. What do we mean by critical thinking first? I want to say that there are lots of definitions of critical thinking in the literature. One of the actually definition is that critical thinking is a powerful thought process in considering all available information before making decision. Paul and Elder, as the founders of critical thinking, believes that critical thinking ability is individual's responsibility to first analyze, second assess, third improve their own thinking. It means that if the individual wants to actually solve a problem or think about something, first of all, we should have the ability to analyze it, assess it, and improve it. One of the best definitions of critical thinking that I myself like it very much is this one. Critical thinking is the art of thinking about your thinking while you're thinking in order to make your thinking better. So this is very important. All of us think, but the quality of thinking is important. How can we think deeply, effectively, efficiently by using critical thinking? What is the definition of critical thinking in this actually presentation or in this research? In this research, we just focus on the pedagogical aspects of critical thinking to investigate how students analyze information, identify reasons, and judge the quality of their writing to draw logical conclusions. In the literature review, we talk about the enhancement of students' writing by using critical thinking in a blended learning environment, by using blogs. Due to the short of time, I cannot focus on this part, but I just mentioned a quick review on the advantages of blogging. You know, blogging can create an interactive environment for students to authentic use of the target language. Also, literature shows that blog can inspire and challenge students to think, to give an excellent opportunity to students to interact with each other and their instructors. It provides sufficient time for students to think about what they are learning, and the last but not least is it reflects on a student's writing. Another part is about field-dependent and field-independent students. Based on the literature, field-dependent students and independent students have different characteristics. I have just mentioned a few of them here. Please pay attention to them and just let me know what type of person you are. Are you a field-dependent person? Some of you are students here, but some of you may be professors, I don't know. As an individual, okay, think about it and just type it. Are you field-dependent or field-independent? Are you ready? Ready, everyone?
Yes, sure.
Yes? Okay. So just think of them. Field-dependent people can perceive global perception. They look at the things globally. They don't go through details. They solve cognitive problems globally. They learn an informal environment. They are easygoing people who like to be in an informal environment or places. They prefer guided navigations, okay? They don't like to find a way themselves. For example, if they want to find the address, they like to ask another people, where is this area? Where is this place? They pay attention to social cues, okay, a lot. And they get aligned with other people very easily. They recall social information like conversations and relationships. They are sociable, insistent, and perspective of others feeling and tough, okay? As a whole, I can say that they are very easygoing people. On the other hand, we have field-independent students or field-independent individuals. If we compare them, we can see that they are more superior to field-dependent in terms of learning. They are very autonomous, competitive, self-reliant, self-confident, and inner-directed. They don't like to ask people to help them unless they're forced to do something. They are obliged to do something. They are more sensible in learning, relying on internal preferences, and better in solving cognitive problems analytically than field-dependent people. So what type of person you are? What do you think? Field-dependent or field-independent? I just leave the chat room here. Are you field-dependent or field-independent? Field-dependent, very good. Another person. Okay, so I have seen different answers actually. Field-independent people. So now our question is this. Okay, what about learning in online learning environment or blended learning environment? Who acted well, field-dependent or field-independent students? This is the question that we want to ask in this research and we want to discuss. A lot of studies have been done on field dependency and online learning, but a few studies, or to me, maybe just one study or two studies, to our best of my knowledge, is working on online learning and field dependent and blended learning. I mean, recent study shows that field-independent students perform better than field-dependent students in an online learning environment. And field-independent students like non-linear programs that allow them to explore prompts related to their interests. In contrast, field-dependent students are interested in following linear programs that allow them to follow the planned learning process in an online learning. Therefore, as an online learning method are self-guided, field-independent students tend to be more successful in seeking and organizing information in this learning environment compared to field-dependent students who follow the indirect instructions. Swan at University of Florida in the US also shows that most students who dropped out of online classes were field-dependent students who need others' approval in setting their learning path more than field-independent students who can control their own learning. Another parts of literature focuses on empirical studies on blogging and critical thinking. In this area, we have a lot of research, okay? I just want to say that, for example, in this area of research is not limited to this research that I have mentioned here. So I just give you a brief conclusion about the literature review. Students, based on this research, I found that students are not able to promote their critical thinking skills on their own. They require instructor's guide to turn them various critical thinking skills to think logically, analyze and compare questions and evaluate their thinking in blogging. Okay, so again, I just want to remind you of the research question, because I'm going to go on with the methodology. The research question is this: is there a significant difference in the extent of critical thinking in field-dependent and field-independent students blogging after they were trained in critical thinking skills? So, in this part, first of all, I'm going to introduce the framework of the study. The framework of this study is based on the social interaction model adapted from Kringings and Krishner in 2001. As you see here, based on their definition, social interaction is divided into two parts. One part is about interactive or constructivist learning, which shows the learning performance, and it covers the educational dimension of the research. Another part deals with social, psychological, and social processes, which is related to the social space. And it covers the social dimension of the study. So, based on my research, the first part relates to the posting on the blog and blogging or writing, okay? And the second part refers to the critical thinking, training critical thinking and field dependency or field independency, cognitive style. So if we point both these parts together, social interaction will happen, which is very, very important in order to have to come up with excellent learning environment. Now, let's move on to research design and methodology. In this study, we have used quasi-experimental study because of the limitations that we have in this study. Also, the method that I had here was a quantitative method. I selected an intact class, which contained 40 students. These students, actually, their age was between 20 to 25, and they had different nationalities because they are from Malaysia, China, India, and Iran. They were from Malaysia, China, Iran, and India. Their language was different. Their language was Chinese, Iranian, Indian, and Malay, but their second language and their final language was English. So all of the classes was held in English, and all of the students were actually present during the whole research. In order to work on this method, for the procedure, we had a blended learning environment, as I told you before, and we have face-to-face sessions and online sessions. The face-to-face sessions was conducted in a computer lab for an hour a week. Toward the end of the semester, students participated in face-to-face sessions twice a week. And online classes was held between the face-to-face sessions, because some of the face-to-face sessions were considered as an introduction for the course, actually. And after that, the students were actually should actually post their writing on the blog, and we had some online sessions in order to post the writing on the blog and also giving comments or feedback on their posts. So in terms of teaching different aspects of critical thinking, I myself taught the students different aspects of critical thinking by giving some information from pioneers in critical thinking, such as Anis in 2004 and Mayfield critical thinking aspects in 2007. These are actually different aspects of critical thinking: observations, induction, deduction, assumption, credibility, value judgment, meaning, disposition. Mayfield works on these areas, and he added some of the points as well. For example, fallacies, word precision, opinions, viewpoint have been added to this part as well. Now, I want to ask you whether you're familiar with these things or not. Do you know them or not? For example, let's get started with observation. What do we mean by observation in critical thinking? What is observation? Have you ever had observation in your classes? Yeah? Yes. So, how can observation help us? The action or process of observing something or something carefully or in order to gain information. Very good. This is the answer of Yashar. Yes? Yashar Falsafi. So observation is something that you want to observe in your classes to see whether something is correct or not. In order to be a critical thinker, you have to be a good observer, okay? You have to observe things well. Another point that we have to consider is reasoning, which is very important in critical thinking. Okay, could you please let me know what's the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning? I would be glad to see your participation more. Inductive and deductive reasoning. What does it mean? We use it in our so again, we have an answer from one of the participants, Yashar. Inductive reasoning aims at developing a theory, while deductive reasoning aims at testing an existing theory. In other words, if we want to talk about inductive and deductive reasoning, we want to say that in the inductive reasoning, okay, we go through details, okay, and we consider the examples in our inductive reasoning. We are not holistic here, but in deductive reasoning, we use the holistic view as a whole. We consider, for example, if you want to solve your problem, you don't go through details. You consider it as a whole and you decide as a whole whether you do something or not. But if you want to solve a problem in inductive reasoning way, you consider the probable solution. You go through each solution to find the answer for that. So I have taught the students different aspects of critical thinking, such as observation. It means that a process of sensing, perceiving, and thinking. Another one is inductive reasoning, which involves trying to create general principles by starting with many particular examples, as I told you. That all of these examples together make the generalization. But in deductive reasoning, we arrive at a particular conclusion based on the generalization. Another point that I taught the students is the assumption, okay? What do we mean by assumption? Assumption is something that actually we have taken for granted, or we accepted it as a truth without having any proof. We have two types of assumption: warranted assumptions and unwarranted assumptions, okay? Now, I want to show you the examples of warranted and unwarranted, or some of them later. Let me finish this part. Then we have another type of critical thinking aspect that I taught the students about credibility. Does anyone know what credibility is? What do we mean by credibility? In critical thinking, what is credibility? You know, you give credit to something. Yeah. For example, one of you has written, when you tell a lie and get caught, your credibility is damaged. Let me give you another example of credibility. For example, about coronavirus. How many of you have been affected by coronavirus during this pandemic? Good. 1, 2, how many? So you're very lucky if you're not infected. Imagine that you have some symptoms of the disease, like coronavirus, headache, fever, I don't know, muscle pain or something like that. 3 people tell you that you have COVID-19, a policeman, a teacher, and a doctor. So which one is better, or which idea is better to you and you accept it? Whose idea is more important to you? Definitely a doctor. Or for example, you have a car accident, okay? You don't know whether are you guilty or not, who should pay the fine or something. So one of the passerby say that you have to pay the fine. Another one say, another driver, the policeman said, you're guilty. So in that case, you accept the policeman idea. That's why we say credibility. Credibility is very important in critical thinking. When you hear the news, especially in social media, because we can see a lot of news from different people all over the world. You can read a lot of posted, okay? But it is very important to distinguish who is talking, whose post is it. Sometimes you can accept it, sometimes you cannot accept it, because the credibility is very important. Okay. Another point that you have to consider in critical thinking training is inferences. What do we mean by inferences? Inferences are used by critical thinkers to their imaginations, reasons, guesses, speculations, estimations, predictions, and conductions. Without inference, you cannot decide well. Without inference, you cannot come up with good conclusion. This is very, very important. That's why in order to solve your problem, or in order to write well, in order to do blogging or something, it is very important to think of what you are writing. When you write, say, okay, when I write this sentence, I am responsible for that. I have to consider all of these factors that comes to the mind of the reader, okay? So I have taught all of the students critical thinking, actually training in face-to-face sessions. While we were teaching them these actually criteria, I asked the students to answer the exercises that posted on the blog for them as an assignment, and also share their ideas about each critical thinking ability. We had a actually chat room in the blog, and we chatted together. Unfortunately, because I have to open up the blog by VPN here, and I am using Zoom right now, it is not possible for me to do both of them. Okay, and I cannot show my blog page, but I have put the site. After the class, you may log in and see the blog page. Now, this is about credibility. How can we assess critical thinking? Good questions, okay, Sarah. If you give me time, I will explain it later. I will keep it in my mind and I will explain it later. Thank you. Now, another part. Okay, so I already told you about different aspects of critical thinking. Now, can you let me know what type of critical thinking aspect it is? Is it inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, assumption, credibility? What is it? If a friend invites us over to his or her house for lunch, we can assume that we will not pay for a meal. This is the assumption. Okay, so don't think about the time. But what type of assumption is it? Is it warranted or unwarranted assumption? I want to see your knowledge about this. Can you guess? So I repeat my question. This is actually an assumption because we assume, we guess when we are invited to our friend's house, okay? Our friend, for example, invite us for the dinner, so we shouldn't pay. Is it warranted assumption or unwarranted assumption? What do you think? Mhm. Do you guess you have to pay or not? This is warranted assumption. Very good. Because you don't want to pay. That's why the critical thinking should be aware of warranted and unwarranted assumption. Sometimes people answer based on their, for example, imagination. They are not realistic. If you're not realistic, you're not a good critical thinker. And if you're not a good critical thinker, you cannot write well. You know, so whenever you write a sentence, you have to write in a way that you can actually be realistic. For example, I cannot say that the president of Iran is in the US this morning, because everyone knows that we are not in a good relationship and he is not in the US right now. This is unwarranted assumption. Okay? Now, another example. So I want to show you another example that I have used in my classes. This is about deductive reasoning. I told you in deductive reasoning, we are go through holistic view. Now, who can answer this question? If I, for example, we want to have a conclusion from this sentence. Please, all of you, read it very carefully and answer. Are you ready? Ready? Yes? Thank you. So, if I talk to her, she will forgive me. If she forgives me, I will be extremely happy. These are the things that come to your mind. Now, which one is the answer? I will talk to her. The conclusion is A, B, or C. I am waiting for your answers. A. No. No, Yashar. B. B. Very good. This is B. This is a kind of logical reasoning. Now, I taught the students these critical thinking points by using this. You know, actually, we have the hypothetical syllogism or logical scheme for the argument. If P, then Q. If Q, then R. So Q will be omitted here. If P, then R. If I talk to her, is P. She will forgive me, is Q. If she forgives me, is Q. I will be extremely happy, is R. So if I talk to her, I will be extremely happy. This is P and comes with R. So if I talk to her, she will be extremely happy, or I will feel happy. That's the answer. Now we can use them in supporting our ideas in blogging. When the students want to support their idea in their argumentative writing, they shouldn't just, for example, write a sentence without providing reasons for that, without persuading the readers. If they want to persuade the readers, they have to use conditional sentences. They have to use conditional, actually, proofs. If I do that, this thing happen. If this happens, then this happens, and blah, blah, blah. So this is very important. They have to learn them. They don't learn them without practicing. These are actually some samples of critical thinking. Not only in your writing, but also you can use them in your actually daily life. For example, if you solve with a problem, write down your problem and then write your solutions. You say, this is my problem. If I go in this way and solve this problem, this happens. If this happened, this happened. And then you come up with conclusion. So this way is very, very actually interesting in order to solve your problem. Now, based on these things that the students learn, they actually work on their blogging and they write their argumentative writing, okay? So we had blended learning environment. Most of the critical thinking skills or critical thinking features are taught to the students in face-to-face classes, not online classes. And most of the exercises was done in the actually, online learning classes. Now, this part. In this part, we're going to talk about the instruments that are used in this research. So what do you think? How many instruments did I need to answer all of these questions? You know, the topic is that. Take a look at the topic. Investigating the extent of critical thinking in field-dependent and field-independent students blogging. What do you think of the instrument? How many instruments did I have? Did I need a questionnaire, for example? What did I need? Waiting for your answer. Okay, I should tell you. So, based on this, we had 3 instruments. Okay, one of the instruments actually was the prompt. What do we mean by prompt? Prompt, as you know, is the writing topics, the topics of the writing. And also, because we had a blended learning environment, we need a blog. So how I create a TED blog? We use www.blogger.com. Okay, this actually blog, you can create a free blog, but the number of participants who want to take part is about 100 participants. But it is very interesting and it is very easy to use. So first of all, we created the blog. This is one of the instruments that we need. Another one was the topic for presentation, for argumentation, for writing. We had 4 prompts. In order to actually in order to identify the prompts, that was very important because we needed to use the parallel topics for the writing. So first of all, I chose, for example, about 10 or 12 topics. The topics, all of them were very social topics based on the students' interest. And also I asked those professors and people who were actually expert in writing to give me their opinion about choosing the topics. After that, after some rounds of choosing the topic, we came up with the four actually topics that you have seen here. For example, one of them was about the animals. Another one was about children reading skill. One of them was about immigration, and another one was about the language that people speak. So we didn't use the difficult topics, and we consider all of these factors in our writing. So the instrument, one of them was blog, another one was the prompts, another one was gift. What does gift do? Okay. Have you ever heard of that? Gift? What does it do? By using gift, we can actually divide field-dependent and field-independent students. Gift is a test, a written test based on the figures. It has three parts, okay? The first part is for practice, because the students want to figure out, for example, some figures. For example, you have to find this triangle in this picture and draw a cursor over it, okay? And the other two parts actually are the part that you have give the score to the students. It is in the limited time. It's about 30 minutes. The students have 30 minutes to work on this. And then based on that, when we actually collect their score, we can see if their score is lower than 11.4, we can consider them as field dependent. If it is more than 11.4, we can consider them as field dependent students. Okay, so this is one of the ways that we can assess or we can recognize field dependent and field independent students. Another instrument that I need was assessing critical thinking by using Newman Model. Okay, this model, I think I can show it better by using the word. Okay, so Newman model, in the Newman model, we have different characteristics, okay, of reasoning and the rest. Let me show you this model. Okay, here. You know, Newman model is based on different categories: relevance, importance, novelty, bringing ideas, assumption, linking ideas together, justification, critical thinking, assessment, and practical unity and width of understanding. All of them should be considered in the writing. And based on that, we have some positive or negative statement. If the students, for example, in terms of relevancy, answer to the write a sentence which is relevant to the other sentences, we put positive. If it is not relevant or irrelevant sentence we have here, we put negative in the sentence. So we consider them in the writing. This model actually Sarah asked me, how can we assess critical thinking? One of the way of assessing critical thinking is that using critical thinking model. The advantage of critical thinking model to other models is that it is based on the number, and we can use it in the quantitative research. But most of the other model that we have are qualitative. Okay, we cannot find them. Excuse me.
Could you please
Yeah.
make bigger for the table so we can see it quite clearly? So
Okay, sure. Just a moment. I may find it here. Yes. Can you see it?
Not yet. Just share, please share for us.
Sure. Just a moment. Okay. Do you have my screen right now? Do you have it?
Not yet. You can share screen first so we can see.
Okay, sure. All right.
Yeah.
Good. So in this part, you know, this is the Newman model that I told you. As you see, we have different categories like relevance, importance, novelty, bringing ideas, ambiguity, linking ideas, justification, critical assessment, practical, utility, width of understanding. And these are, you know, each category has two parts, positive indicators and negative indicators. By positive indicators, we mean that we have this thing in the writing or maybe in the speaking or whatever. For example, when we talk about the novelty, we want to see that whether the students use novelty in their writing. Did you pay attention to new ideas in their writing or solving the problem, or at the end, or maybe, for example, throughout their writing, did they use new ideas or not? If they have used them, we use positive mark for this part as a novelty. If not, we do not. Or this part as a negative means for this part, for example, if they repeat their sentences or their phrases or their words, or they come up with false idea, or they accept the solutions without any reasoning, we put negative for them. So that is the way that we can actually assess critical thinking in writing. To my best of knowledge, we have different types of models of critical thinking, but this is the only one that can assess critical thinking quantitatively. Okay, so this is very important to consider. Now, based on this, this is another instrument that I told you earlier. Now let's back to PowerPoint here. We have done the research based on this, and now we are going to explain this part. Is there a significant difference in the extent of critical thinking in field-dependent and field-independent students' argumentative writing blog after they were trained critical thinking? So after collecting the data, after collecting all of the students' posts and then also collecting the result of the field dependency and independency by gift. We have gone through the results. First of all, we wanted to see how many of the students are field dependent and how many of the students are field independent. The result of gift shows that 20 students were field dependent and 16 students were field independent. Okay, and this is the sample of blogging that I told you earlier. The students wrote on the blog, for example, children versus adult in different second language learning situation. How did they learn? You know, our topics were argumentative topics, and they worked on this. So in terms of using Newman model that I told you, we need expert in not only critical thinking, but also in writing. So two people who had a lot of experience in teaching critical thinking and also in working on students' writing were asked to use coding and also analyze the students' posting. Before that, we had a pilot study. In the pilot study, we used not only gift, but blog in order to be sure that the students use it in the best way in their research. But none of the students who actually worked in the pilot study and participated in the pilot study worked in the real research that we have. So the coding was that, first of all, the two raters worked together. I gave them for example, post and asked them to analyze it based on the Newman model. And then inter-rater reliability based on Copenhagen coefficient was considered, which was 0.87. And then after that, because they come up with an agreement, we asked them to analyze the writing. I don't know whether I have to continue or can we have a break?
Yeah,
right
I think
now?
You can have a break, and I will introduce the participants on Vision Journal. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I will share screen. Yeah, Zahra.
Pardon?
I will share screen. I will share screen now.
Okay. Okay. So I will stop sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, to all the participants, I'd like to introduce this is our journal, and we invite participants to submit the manuscript. Vision Journal. This is the name of our journal. Vision Journal for Language and Foreign Language Learning. The Vision Journal is the international single blind, peer-reviewed, and open access journal. So this is we use single blind peer reviewing. So meaning that authors do not know who their reviewers, but reviewers will know who the author is. Yeah, and then dedicated solely to research on teaching and learning a second and foreign language. It aims to publish quality papers that contribute to all aspects of the professions, with a particular preference for studies that combine theory and practice. Yeah. And then what is the so the journal welcomes submissions on foreign language acquisition translation and language learning, foreign language learning and identity, gender and equality in English language learning, and then foreign language skills, linguistics and English language learning, literature and English language learning, and foreign language teaching and learning, and as well as from the field of sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, and other related areas. What are the benefits? Yeah, if you submit your manuscripts, yeah, in Vision Journal. Yeah, first, there is no author fees. Yeah, so meaning that it is totally free. Yeah, free of charge. Yeah, so if you submit and if the manuscript, we accept the manuscript and we will publish your articles. Yeah, and then number two, free proofreading service. Actually, we have you know, 3 proofreaders. Yeah, so all manuscripts will be proofread by our professional proofreaders. Yeah, so authors do not have to pay, meaning that it is totally free as well. And then it is indexed nationally and internationally in directory of open access journals, and then in Moraref, EBSCO, Dimensions, also in National Sinta and Garuda. So Vision Journal is indexed in Sinta 3, yeah, in our country, yeah. So in Sinta 3, if you you know, if you are interested, you can submit your manuscript here, yeah. And then aim and scope, yeah, as the aims, yeah, focus on research-based articles, yeah. So we prefer research-based articles on first, second, and foreign language learning. So meaning that it's not only English, yeah, but you can submit any language, yeah, but especially English, yeah. And then the scope here, foreign language acquisition, here this one, I will repeat again once more, foreign language learning and identity, gender equality in English language learning, foreign language skills, and others, yeah. So if your articles is within our scope, you can submit your manuscript here. And yeah, that's it, yeah. So if you are interested, this is our website. Yeah, this is our website. Let me, yeah, this is the website. So you can submit here by, what is it? Register your username. Yeah, so actually you can have it here, yeah, login, yeah, or user like this one, yeah. So you can not a user, you can register your username here. Okay, that's it. The profile of Vision Journal, and we hope that some of you might submit your articles or manuscripts, yeah, in Vision, yeah, because you know, there are other, I mean that there are international authors, yeah, who publish their manuscript in Vision Journal. That Vision Journal is the right place for you, yeah, to publish your research. Okay, thank you. Now, time is yours, Zahra Shahshafir. You can.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. So.
Okay. So should I share the screen?
Yes.
Good. All right. Let's back to what we have mentioned. In this part, I told you about the analysis of the data. I am going to share some parts that we have done based on the Newman model. You know, we compare the depth of critical thinking in field-dependent students and in field-independent students, okay? As I told you earlier, we had 4 blog posts or 4 argumentative writing on the blog. And then based on the critical thinking, actually characteristics that we have. For example, for the relevance, we coded all of the positive point about relevance. 46 times students use relevance in their blog post, all of the students together. On the other hand, they have used minus relevance, I mean irrelevant sentences or something like this, 32 times in the post one. I just want to focus in this part because we run out of time. I cannot explain all of them one by one. As you see here, in the second blog post, the number of positive has been decreased and the number of negative has been decreased, both of them. Interestingly, in the third one, the number of positive has been increased. And in the fourth one, this is the maximum of that. This is 60. This one is 13. So the number of irrelevant sentences or phrases has been decreased to 13 and then 5. So take a look at this. What does this comparison show? Can you let me know? What does this comparison show? Take a look at this. What do you think? Do you think that our writing was beneficial, our teaching was beneficial for relevancy or not? I just asked about one of them. Yes, I'm waiting for your reply. Take a look. Yes. So, as you see here, students' criticalness has been increased. It shows that students become aware of the relevancy, okay? And it shows that if we observe them, we can see that our training was beneficial, okay? But we cannot answer in this way in order to see whether this difference is significant or not. In order to find whether it is significant or not, we counted all of these actually coding. And then, let me show you here. This is about field-dependent post, and another table is about field-independent. And then we use chi-square in order to compare them, whether these differences are significant or not. Okay? So this is the result of the chi-square. Although field-independent students use more positive indicators in their fourth round of blog posts, no significant difference was found in the number of positive or negative critical thinking indicators used by field-dependent and field-independent students. So this result was confirmed by chi-square test, as you see here. The result is not significant. So as a whole, we can say that our training of critical thinking was very beneficial for the students. Both field-dependent and independent students have improved in terms of using critical thinking in their writing post. However, no significant difference was found in the extent of critical thinking between field-dependent and field-independent students. Okay, now I am going to go through the result of the blog post in the first and the rest of the argument. Comparing field-dependent and field-independent students' argumentative writing blog posts, the lowest criticalness is found in the first and the second round of blogs that occurred before critical thinking training. In the third round of argumentative blog posts that occur at the end of the training, multiple aspects of critical thinking was shown in the students' writing. However, there was no negative, for example, there was no negative critical thinking ratio in both field-dependent and field-dependent blog posts. This means that the number of positive indicators was more than negative indicators in field-dependent students and field-independent students' blog posts. Now, the highest criticalness is detected in the fourth round of argumentative blog posts. So these are the points that we have found in the students' writing. Now we're going to go through the discussion. As noted, no significant difference between field-dependent and field-independent in the extent of critical thinking in their blogging was found in this study. The result supports Hunt's idea that instructors should design argumentative writing skills in a way that would improve both field-dependent and field-independent students' writing. Another discussion that we can say this, in this study, students' variations in field dependency does not give an advantage to learners to improve the extent of critical thinking in their writing. The result is in line with some research that since field dependency refers to individuals' learner characteristics, field-dependent and field-independent students do not differ in their learning abilities. The results also support the notion that learners' field dependency cannot be trained and are almost stable during time. In contrast, critical thinking skills are not innate behavior. They can be taught and improved over time. So, in order to be a good critical thinker, we should learn field-dependent and field-independent students. Critical thinking is not just limited to our field dependency, our cognitive style, or our personality. Everyone has potential to improve his thinking ability and also their writing. The limitation of this study. The first limitation of this study is about having an intact class of students. In this study, we have chosen 40 students in our class. The result would be different if we could minimize the issue of respondent bias by selecting a random sample. Okay, and also if we could increase the number of the students. Some practical problems limited the desirability of a large sample because the computer lab had approximately 4 seats for students to participate in the course blog activities. Because it was a blended learning environment, we have face-to-face and blended together. That was the point that we had some limitations. Another limitation was about time constraint. This study was conducted only in 1 semester, which allowed the researchers to train critical thinking skills in 3 or 4 months. So the result definitely would be different if we had a long period of time for teaching critical thinking. Another part was about our instrument. In this study, we used GAFT in order to identify students' field dependency. Other studies may use other kind of actually cognitive style test. And also we use Newman Model, which was qualitative. Other quantitative models of critical thinking could result different, for example, differently, it could be, could have different results. And another point was about scoring gift. You know, based on the literature, we have found two ways in order to identify field-dependent and field-independent students in using gift. Some of them use the same as weighted. I mean, they consider those students whose the score was lower than 11.4 as field-dependent, and those who have a score more than 11.4 as field-independent student. But, you know, one of the controversial issue was that, what if the students get exactly 11.4? What do you think? If the students exactly get 11.4, what can we do? Can we consider him field-dependent? How do you know, Yasha? Because we say more than 11.4 field-independent, less than 11.4 field-dependent. This is in between. What should we do? You know, this is actually one of the things which has been discussed by the researchers. They believe that in order to have a more reasonable answer about using gift, we can use this. Field-dependent and field-independent students score will be considered based on the standard deviations. If, for example, it means that those whose score were equal or less than 1/4 of standard deviations were considered as field-dependent. Those whose score were equal or more than 1.4 standard deviation, 1/4 of a standard deviation were considered as field-dependent students. And students with scores between 1/4 standard deviation and below the mean were identified as both field-dependent and field-independent students. This is one of the things which has been cited by other researchers, for example, Maksudi, 2007, and Yamini and Rahnamo, 2018. I think this is better result than just identify them based on their score. Using a standard deviation and mean could be more beneficial. And finally, I am going to go through concluding remarks of this research. As we know, critical thinking is an essential skill for both field-dependent and field-dependent students. But an important factor seems to have been ignored in this area is that students often do not know how to support their claims, justify the reasons, and use logic in their argumentative writing. Educators who wish to improve students' learning can train students in critical thinking skills by using a pre-planned and systematic procedures without being worried about learners' cognitive style, particularly their field dependency. They should also make effort to use a blended learning environment, such as blog and face-to-face, to promote students' critical thinking skills. So that's the end of my presentation. because this is related to critical thinking, I want to draw your attention to this note that the mind is in its own place and in its can make a hell of a heaven or a heaven of hell. This is what John Milton is mentioned. As a critical thinker, you can just keep it in your mind. If you want to have a peaceful life, it's your responsibility to make your mind a hell of a heaven or a heaven of hell. Thank you very much for your participation. Your questions are highly welcome.
Okay, first the question from Sarah.
Yeah.
How can we access the critical thinking?
As I told you earlier, for assessing critical thinking, we have different ways. We can use it what do we say? Quantitatively or qualitatively. Both of them can be used. As I told you, the best way for assessing is using Newman Model. Let me show you the Newman Model once more. This is very good way in order to assess critical thinking. On the other hand, we have a lot of critical thinking models that we can assess students' critical thinking. It may take time for me, just a few seconds, to show you actually the models that I have used in my thesis and also in my publications, okay? Based on this evaluation, for example, you can use the research and elaborate your research based on different models, okay? For example, use different models of critical thinking and also use Newman model and then compare which one is better, okay? Which one is more beneficial? Let me show you them. This is about critical thinking, aspects of critical thinking that I have noted earlier. Yeah. For example, one of the models is taxonomy of Socratic questioning. In this one, you can use different type of questions to assess a student's critical thinking. This is one of them. Another model could be taxonomy of Socratic questioning that targets target of thinking. This is based on the questions, goals and purposes. Questioning questions. It has 8 parts. Questionings about information, data, experience. Questioning about inference and conclusions. Questioning about concepts and ideas. Questioning about assumptions. Questioning about implications and consequences. For example, if someone say, are you implying that? It shows the question. What type of question? Questions of implications. Another one, questioning about viewpoints and perspective. We want to see whose point of view is it. And based on this, for example, this one, actually this type of model can be used in argumentative interviews. For example, you ask a question and the presenter answer, or you ask the question, the students answer. As you know, Socratic questioning is Socratic questioning, which is one of the models of critical thinking, is based on the question, because Socratic believes that learning could not happen without asking questions. So it is very important to be aware of using questions. This is another model that we can use. Another model is about universal intellectual standard. I am really, really interested in using this type of model because in this model, we have to find all of these characteristics in the student's writing. For example, you can see clarity, accuracy, perception, relevance, depth, breadth, logic, significance, and fairness. Fairness is when you look at it, you say, okay, does the writer have the vested of interest in his writing or her writing? If this person has, so you give minus fairness. But if it doesn't have, you say, okay, it's okay. So these categories of universal intellectual standard is very, very good in order to evaluate writing or different aspects of reasoning in critical thinking. Sarah, hope that you get your answer. Any other question?
Zahra, again, about field dependent and field independence. Yeah, I think these are related to cognitive. Yeah, meaning that you can know the what is it, the cognitive and also personality traits of students. Yeah. And from your research that you found out that there are no difference between field dependence and field independence students, yeah, in their bloggings. So what does it imply? What is the critical thinking from this? Meaning that there is no difference here from the result.
Yeah, very thoughtful question. Thank you. As I told you earlier, in the review of literature that we identify field-dependent and field-independent students, I have found that in most of the research, there is no difference between field-dependent and field-independent in terms of learning, because this is a type of their cognitive style, okay? And cognitive style cannot actually have a lot of influence on the students' learning. Of course, for example, if we had online learning, I can say that probably field-independent students would do better in online learning classes because they are not actually dependent to other people. In terms of, for example, working with Web 2.0 tools such as blogs, wiki, podcasts, or any other instrument, they themselves are responsible for using these instruments, you know. And they don't have any problem, they don't have stress, but field-dependent students like to have someone to help them in their learning environment. Maybe, for example, as an instructor, it comes to your mind, oh my God, today I have a presentation on the Zoom. What if it doesn't work out? What if the connection doesn't run well? What if I disconnected? Field-independent people actually are quite satisfied with the situation. They deal with the problem easily, but on the other hand, we have field-dependent people. Field-dependent, for example, presenter maybe say, oh my God, I need someone to help me in this area. I need the help of the IT men to help me in this area, because it is different. So in that case, I thought that if I had only online classes, maybe field-independent students performed better than field-dependent students. But because we had blended learning, that is actually one of the positive point of learning. In blended learning, we consider the actually characteristics of both field-dependent and field-independent. Field-dependent students are quite satisfied with face-to-face classes. When they have face-to-face classes, they are satisfied, so they learn better in this area. And this motivates them to use online learning as well. So the probable reason that there is no difference between field-dependent and field-independent students in this field of study that we had is that maybe because we had blended learning environment. So in other words, it can cover the problems of each person, each individual, whether he or she is field-dependent or field-independent. They are weak in some areas, but they are strong in other areas of learning environment, which is online learning and face-to-face. So they can compensate these problems.
Yeah, anyway, about field independent. Yeah. I think field independent is related to autonomous learning or self-directed language learning. What do you think about this one? Is it
field dependent or independent?
Field independence.
Yeah.
Field independent.
Yeah. Field independent people are autonomous learners, are independent learners. If we compare them to field dependent, when we say someone is, for example, autonomous learner, it doesn't mean that they don't need the help of, for example, instructors or others to learn. No, but this is actually the kind of comparisons that we do. If we, for example, compare them, roughly speaking, we can say that field independent are much more have more self-confidence or autonomous than field dependents.
Yeah, we are waiting for questions from participants. I think we can have a dialogue with participants. Could you please give any questions related to critical thinking, field dependence, and field independence? I think this is quite new term for us. Especially for me. And field independence, I have no idea what it's about. But now I understand. Come on, questions from participants or from my colleagues in the English department. Let me call Pak Agus Sutiono. You want to have questions, Pak Agus?
Are you field dependent or field independent? Yashar asked me this question.
I'm independent, I think, Zahra. I'm field independent.
Actually, I have done the
I'm the moderator now. I'm the moderator, and also I'm the the committee, and also I prepare the certificates as well. I will send the link for the certificate. So field independence, I think. What about you, Sarah?
Because I was working on the field dependency, I did the GEFT test as well, and 2 other tests. I cannot remember that because it relates to a few years ago. I think I am in between because my score was something around 12 or something. So, and in terms of, for example, my personality, I think different people should judge me. But if you ask my colleague, they say that I am somehow a field independent person. But it depends. It depends on the situation.
Oh yeah, Pak Agus Sutiono, you want to?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sarah. I very interested for your information to today. I will one question. So maybe I today have an article to planning to submit to submit journal, but I hello Mas David.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the matter I saw there are one word tip to collect data. In my thinking, maybe in tip itu I must be to collect data with maybe, for example, in tip interview. But in this, Mrs. Zahra, there are complexity to tip data maybe. What the meaning in context complexity to tip information to data article maybe?
Could you please elaborate your question?
Yes, to complexity collecting data to us, so we have.
Could you please explain in Indonesian so I will translate? Yeah, I don't understand also your question.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Next, you'll understand better. Yeah, Pak Agus. What
bahasa Indonesia Mas David, oke.
Pertanyaannya
Oke. Jadi pertanyaan saya gini Mas David, tadi disebutkan di sini bahwa untuk mendapatkan data misalnya dalam hal untuk mendapatkan data yang mendalam, ada deep, ini harus dicari dengan kompleksitas dari berbagai macam hal yang menjadi keterkaitannya begitu. Sementara ini kan yang kita pahami misalnya interview ya menanyakan yang dalam terkait dengan fokus yang ingin kita tanyakan. Tapi di sini ada complexity itu yang saya tanyakan Mas David.
Oh, yang bagian complexity ya. Oh, so dari wawancara yang ditanyakan, data dari wawancara. Dan Okay, I understand the question, Zahra. He wants
so
to
could
know,
you please translate it in English?
Yeah, he just want to know, Zahra, how did you analyze the interview? I mean, you analyze the interview based on the category. You have coding, right? And then there is some category that you explain that there is complexity. He wants to know complexity category in your coding.
For complexity category for coding, critical thinking?
Yes.
Do you mean that for coding critical thinking model? Are you talking about the model?
No, you mean the complexity ya Pak Agus ya? You mean the complexity category, right? You
the
complexity.
The complexity of coding, the problems that we have.
Yes.
Is it your question?
Bukan Pak Agus ya. Pertanyaannya gimana? Complexity yang gimana tadi?
Di bagian itu loh Mas David, tip untuk mendapat data yang tadi di taksonomi Socrates tadi dulu. Di taksonomi ada deep, penjelasannya kan harus complexity juga untuk mendapatkan data.
Oh, I see. In Socrates,
Socratic questioning taxonomy?
Yes.
Okay, what should I say about that? I didn't get your point. You didn't get what?
We want to know more about the Socrates taxonomy, especially the complexity. Yeah.
What do we mean by complexity in Socratic question taxonomy? Yeah, this is your question. Okay. In Socratic questioning, actually, do you have my screen?
I think you can share screen again, Zahra.
I have to share it again. So let me share it again. Okay. So this is Socratic questioning, okay? If you are interested in Socratic questioning taxonomy that we have, one of them is universal intellectual standard. I have chosen this for one of my articles which has been published. You know what we did? We considered the students' posting, and then we go through this taxonomy, whether to see the students have used these critical thinking points in their writing or not. For example, we read the argumentative posting or argumentative writing of the students. Then, as a rater, I say to myself, does the writer elaborate on the point? For example, I say, do you agree with studying overseas or not? In the writing, the students mentioned that I do agree to study in overseas because of different reasons. One of the reasons is cultural reason. Another reason is being familiar with different language. Another one is facilities. If this person elaborates the reasons, so I say in terms of clarity, it is useful, and he has used clarity. Or, for example, accuracy. I want to see the supporting that the person has used in his writing is actually correct or not, is accurate or not. For example, if he say that if we have a topic about COVID-19, he say that COVID-19 is not a problem for people all over the world, so it doesn't have accuracy. In terms of precision, can you be more specific? It means that if you use the supporting ideas, did you elaborate it or not? For example, in the writing, the students say, or in their thesis, in their article writing, maybe they write, we have different models for critical thinking, but they didn't mention any of them. So it is not more specific. In terms of relevant, you know, it should be the relevancy between the sentences, paragraphs, or the ideas maybe that come in the text or passage. In terms of the depth, you ask about the depth. What are some of the complexities of this question? It means that when you talk about the argumentative actually writing, okay? We can say that whether this person goes through details to answer this question or not, this is very important. Have they mentioned the problems of the research or not? What are some of the complexities of these questions? For instance, when I say, do you like to live to study abroad, pursue your study abroad? You have to mention what problems you may face with. You shouldn't just talk about the positive points of that. Like the discussion, when we write the discussion, for example, we shouldn't say that, okay, the result of our study is significant in writing. So other studies, this actually answer is in line with other studies which are significant. We should not just consider the significant studies. We have to consider the studies that are not the same as our actually study. In other words, in critical thinking, we should not be biased. We should not just focus on our point of view. We have to persuade other people who do not agree with our ideas. That's what we have to consider in depth. Did you get it?
Yes. Okay. Clear. Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs.
Is it clear?
Clear. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
And also, Pak Agus, yeah, are you familiar with Socratic taxonomy? Pak Agus?
Yeah.
Me
No,
or
Pak Agus.
others?
Pak Agus. I'm not familiar with also this taxonomy. We usually use Bloom taxonomy, yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What about this one? Are you familiar with this, Pak Agus? No.
No.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm clear with Bloom taxonomy.
Yeah, we never study Socratic taxonomy. We are familiar with Bloom taxonomy, but not this taxonomy. Yeah. So this is quite new for all of us. Yeah, probably.
Okay, so let me show you one of my published article in this area. I think I can just send the PDF to you after the class. If you are interested in this, in this research, I would be glad to be in contact with you about Socratic questioning. That is very, very interesting topic for those who are research. Yeah, you have my. Do you have my screen?
Yes, I think this is.
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. This is the pedagogical blogging promoting tertiary level students' critical thinking by using Socratic questioning. That is one of my published article in NUS University of Singapore. And also I have lots of, let me show my CV on Socratic questioning. I have lots of publication and presentation on that.
Okay. And also we want the, the PowerPoints, yeah, or PDF of your presentation, Zahra, and
okay, sure, I will send it to you.
And also
right away.
Sarah Kasafian, yeah, I forget to ask the PDF or PowerPoints, yeah. And we are waiting for other questions, probably from other participants, please, if you have any questions. No questions? Oh yeah, Sarah.
Yeah.
You have, I think, the research instruments, yeah, in your what is it? In your research is it's not only questionnaires, yeah, but also interviews, right?
I didn't have questionnaire.
You don't have questionnaires, yeah, only interviews.
Yeah.
And how do you categorize, yeah, the interview into certain category, and then how do you analyze the interview then in
interview?
Yes.
Actually, in this presentation that I had for you, I just focus on the quantitative part of my research. I didn't focus on qualitative part of my research. But as a whole, yeah, we have an interview. The interview was that after running the critical thinking training, I asked the students to come to my office, and then I recorded their question. We have semi-structural interview. The interview questions was about how did they feel about blended learning environment? Did they like it or not? Did they find blogging interesting? If they have any suggestions in order to improve their, for example, learning, I just wrote them down. And also, I had an interview with field-dependent and field-independent students about using blog to see which group are more comfortable with using the blog. All of them are written in my article, which is published in Singapore. You can find them. They had different ideas about it. For example, most of the field-dependent students say that at the beginning it was very hard for us to have interactions with other students during the block, but some of the field-independent say that it was easy for us, and then we come up with conclusion that blended learning is a better learning environment than online learning or face-to-face learning.
Yeah. And what do you understand the term blended learning? Meaning, what we understand is that this is the combination of offline learning and online learning. Do you have the same concept or definitions of blended learning?
Exactly. Yeah, this is the same one. It means that we use the face-to-face classes in order to train the students, okay, critical thinking skills. The students came to the lab, but I myself taught them individually critical thinking skills. And after that, I make them familiar with using blocks, okay? For the assignment, I send the assignment to the students online on the blog. In that terms, it has a lot of advantages for us. One, we were not limited to the class time. Number two, the students can see other students' posts and writing, and then they can give them the feedback, or they can give them the comments. And then they revise the students' posts. Actually, this is a part of my research that I haven't involved in my presentation here. So in that case, that was the better way to improve a student's writing by using blended learning, because in that case, we can save the time, we can save the energy, and also students were really interested when they see their posts were shown on the blog, and other students could see their writing. This gave them actually the motivation in order to write better.
And again, how do you know that 20 students are field-dependent learners and 16 students field-independent learners?
Actually, I say because of by giving them the test, GIFT test. GIFT is a test that identifies field-dependent and field-independent. This is the standard test that we bought it. It is very expensive, but we bought it from the founder of university. Actually, this is a psychological test that we have. And as I noted earlier, other types of tests are available as well. Maybe, for example, in future, we have some more trustful instrument as well.
Oh, I see. Yeah. We have. Do we have any more questions from participants? From Bu Siti Mariam or Bu Nuna, our colleagues, my colleagues in the English department, or let's say no other questions from other participants as well? If we don't have any question, I think, oh yeah, anyway, I send you the attendance list, yeah, to get the certificate, yeah. You just, fill this Google form, and then automatically you will receive the certificate from us, yeah. So it's very easy, and also we will give you the certificate as well. And we are waiting for the manuscript, Zahra, yeah. And
okay, I will send it immediately after the presentation.
Oh, I see. Wow, it's very good, yeah. And this is quite new, yeah, for Indonesian students, and also, your research, yeah, is quite new. I mean, for us, yeah, because Socrates taxonomy, and then you have the critical thinking in field and field dependent and field independence, yeah. I think thanks a lot, Zahra, and we will see you again next time. Yeah, we hope.
Hopeful and happy Ramadan.
Yeah.
Pray for us.
Yeah.
Wish you the best, all of you. I think one of the reasons that they don't ask a lot of questions, maybe they are fasting. Yes.
Oh, yeah, maybe we are fasting. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, usually we have many questions. Yeah, with you know, and also we don't have any snacks. Yeah, or anything. Yeah, food and drink because it is the holy month of Ramadan.
Okay, so I will send you not only the presentation but also a related article on critical thinking.
Yeah, that's right. The presentation
Okay.
manuscript, and also to Sarah Kasofian. Yeah, we want your manuscript. She's here. Yeah, your colleagues, right? Sarah Kasofian.
Also, here is my Instagram page. If you like to be in contact with me, you may use it.
Yeah.
Let me just.
We also want your CV, and then your. Actually, I want to send you the letter, but I'm a little bit busy nowadays. Yeah, there are many a little bit hectic. Yeah, so not only your presentation and also your CV. Yeah, we want your CV.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sure, I will send it to you as well.
Okay. I think that's all, Sarah. And
okay, thank you very much. I'm glad to see all of you here. If you have any question regarding the research, I will be glad to be in contact with you.
Yeah.
Have a great day ahead. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.